An analyst that I follow says XRP could hit $25 by Christmas. So I nearly spit out my coffee until I realized that he might actually be onto something. So the other day, I'm scrolling through crypto news and I find this article by a researcher named Phantom DeFi. Now he's laying out why XRP might explode to $25 by the end of 2025. So $25, I know, it sounds completely out there, right? As someone who kind of bought a whole bunch of XRP in early 2020, when it was around 11 cents, I had two reactions. First, yeah, right, this is clickbait. And second, but even if there's a shred of truth there, then I need to know, because that would be life-changing. I mean, I've held this thing from 11 cents to nearly $3 through crazy ups and downs. So if it really does go 10x from here, then I might actually just lose my mind in a really good way. So of course, I start digging into his evidence here, and what I found blew me away. There are multiple big catalysts, all converging, that could set XRP on fire in a good way. So let me walk you through this, because by the end, you might just be as stunned as I am. And here's a quick shout out. If you want to kind of geek out with us on crypto stuff like this, then hop into our free educational Discord server. There is a link chilling in the description. It's a chill place, to learn and swap ideas. Anyway, buckle up. Let's get started. Now, let's start with the elephant in the room, the SEC saga. So if you were around in late 2020, you'll remember this. The United States Securities and Exchange Commission came after Ripple, claiming that XRP was an unregistered security. It was a bit chaotic, and the price tanked. Major exchanges delisted XRP in the United States, and a lot of folk wrote it off as a dead coin walking. I'll admit, I was pretty scary kind of times holding XRP through all of that. I had moments where I thought, did I just throw my money into a black hole? Because for years, the lawsuit just dragged on and the uncertainty was brutal. Fast forward to this year, and Ripple beat the case. Right after 5 long years, they finally settled with the SEC and essentially won. The result? XRP now has the strongest legal clarity in the United States crypto history. A judge basically said, hey, XRP is not a security, and the case is done and dusted. This was huge. Overnight, one of the biggest clouds overhanging XRP had just vanished. Now, I can't overstate the relief in the community. When I heard the news, I literally kind of called up a friend who holds XRP and yelled, "We beat the SEC." Now, it was like our little coin that could finally go and get vindication. Now, why does this matter for the price? Well, you got to think about all of the big players, the banks, the hedge funds, the payment companies that were staying far away from XRP because of that lawsuit. Nobody with serious money wanted to touch a token that might be deemed illegal or whatever. Now, that legal uncertainty was a giant brick wall. But with the lawsuit resolved, that wall came crashing back down, and the floodgates are open now. Suddenly, XRP is one of the few cryptocurrencies with clear regulatory green lights in the United States. So, all of those institutions that were in kind of wait-and-see mode, well, they're now free to jump on in. And some of them are definitely looking. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if, in the coming months, you hear about big banks or funds quietly buying XRP or using it in some pilot programs. The legal clarity makes XRP feel safe for them in a way that almost no other cryptocurrency really is. Now, that alone could be an absolute game changer. All right, so that's catalyst number 1. Catalyst number 2, though, the 3-letter craze, ETF. Now, we've all seen how the prospects of an ETF can send crypto fans into a bit of a frenzy. Hello, Bitcoin folks, I see you nodding along. Now, it's XRP's turn on the ETF hype train. Right now, as we speak, there are about 7 different spot XRP ETF applications under review by regulators. 7. And get this, the prediction markets are saying that there is like a 95% chance of approval by mid-October. Yeah, 95%. So by next month, we could see the first ever XRP exchange-traded fund get the green light, not the hybrid thing that launched a week ago. So why is an ETF such a big deal? Well, in simple terms, an ETF would make it super easy for regular investors and big institutions alike to invest in XRP without actually messing around with crypto wallets and exchanges. Now, it's kind of like XRP on the stock market menu. So if these ETFs get approved, massive Wall Street money that's kind of been sitting on the sidelines could actually start flowing into XRP. We're talking pension funds, asset managers, maybe even your co-workers' 401k indirectly investing in XRP if their fund managers decide to include it. Now, Phantom DeFi, the guy who made the $25 prediction, described it perfectly. An XRP ETF could open the door to trillions in institutional liquidity over time. That was trillions with a T. Now, even if that's an overestimation, just imagine even a fraction of Wall Street's money getting into XRP. The demand could skyrocket. Now, I remember the buzz when the first Bitcoin ETF rumors popped up. Bitcoin's price went nuts. If XRP gets that kind of moment, well, it could be like throwing gasoline on a fire. Honestly, just thinking about it gives me goosebumps. For so long, XRP was excluded from the party because of the lawsuit, and ETF approval would be like its grand entrance onto the main stage. Now, before we all start seeing dollar signs in our sleep, I need to level with you on something rather important. Here it goes. This might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile, and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, I'm glad that we got that out of the way. We've got to keep it responsible here. You know how it goes. Now, let's get back to the good stuff, because we're not done with the reasons behind all of this and reasons to be excited. The next catalyst is something that a lot of people haven't even really heard of. RLUSD. Now, this is Ripple's very own stablecoin. Yes, Ripple created a US dollar-pegged stablecoin that lives on the XRP ledger. It's fully backed by real dollars and US treasuries, and they even got monthly audits. So it's legit and it's transparent. So think of RLUSD as a digital dollar that rides on XRP's network. Now I hear you, why is this a big deal? Well, it's because it can make using the XRP ledger even more attractive for big institutions. Imagine a bank or a company that wants to settle payments or move money internationally. Now they could convert cash into RLUSD, so it's in a kind of crypto digital form. Send it across the world on the XRP ledger in seconds, and the recipient converts it back to cash, all regulated and backed by actual reserves. It's fast, it's reliable, and it uses XRP's infrastructure behind the scenes. RLUSD is already live in the United States, and Ripple has announced plans to roll it out in Japan in Q1 2026 through their partner SBI, which is a huge financial group over there in Japan. So Ripple is actively expanding this thing globally. Fully backed stablecoin plus global rollout means that the XRP ledger could become a preferred highway for moving real dollars around, especially for Asian markets connecting with the United States. Now, here is why I find this exciting. More usage of the XRP ledger via something like RLUSD can directly or indirectly boost XRP's value, even if XRP isn't actually needed as the stablecoin itself, at least as the stablecoin itself, since RLUSD is a separate token altogether, but it actually strengthens the whole ecosystem. So it's kind of like adding more lanes to a highway. More traffic can flow smoothly, and eventually that means more people using the highway and paying tolls, so to speak. Now, it quietly makes XRP's network more integral to the global finance system, and it's happening without a whole ton of fanfare. Most people are busy watching price charts, but Ripple is out there quietly building the plumbing of future finance. Oh, and speaking of actual actually using crypto in practice, a lot of people ask me where I actually do a lot of my trading or where I get my XRP. So here's a quick side note. I personally use a couple of different exchanges, mainly Blowfin and BitGet. Now, if you're looking for places to trade, I've got affiliate links for both of these, Blowfin and BitGet, down in the description. That means that if you do sign up and trade using those links, it actually helps support the channel here at no extra cost to yourself. And I do seriously appreciate it. Now, there is no pressure to use them, of course, but they're there if you are curious and cautious and wanting different exchanges. All right, that's a shameless plug. It is over, and let's get back to the story. Now, this next part sounds like something maybe out of a fintech thriller, right? Ripple becoming a bank. Yes, you heard that right. Ripple, the company, is on the verge of potentially becoming a bank, or at least getting the powers of one. Now, they've applied for a New York banking charter and are awaiting approval for a Federal Reserve's master account. Now, if those come through, Ripple would essentially be able to plug directly into the Federal Reserve's settlement system. Right? They'd be like a bank that can transact directly with the Fed. Now, this is unprecedented. No crypto or blockchain company has ever gotten this kind of access before. It's like Ripple is trying to join the elite club of finance, right? The one historically kind of reserved for, well, you know, actual banks that have been around for, I don't know, centuries. Not surprisingly enough, that I've heard traditional banks are not actually that thrilled about all of this. I mean, imagine that you're a big bank and this kind of startup tech company waltzes on in saying, hey, let us in on that Fed wiring action. You'd probably kind of push back a bit too, right? And apparently some in the banking sector are indeed lobbying or resisting Ripple's applications against its kind of threatening, because it's kind of threatening, I guess. It kind of blurs the line a lot between crypto and traditional bankings in ways that, well, we just simply haven't seen before. But consider the flip side. If Ripple does get approved, this is like a seismic validation. It would mean that regulators trust Ripple enough to grant them, or at least to grant it, I should say, the same type of access that JP Morgan or Bank of America actually has. Now, for XRP holders and users, that is pretty huge news because Ripple is the biggest player pushing XRP adoption. So if the company behind our favorite coin becomes the de facto bank, or a de facto bank, then directly connects to the Fed, it could massively streamline what Ripple can do with XRP in the banking world. It's kind of like getting a golden ticket. Suddenly Ripple could integrate even more with legacy systems without needing intermediary banks. Now that could accelerate adoption for XRP for settlements, because now Ripple can handle the fiat side of things as a bank while also handling all the crypto side with XRP. Honestly, when I invested in XRP at 11 cents, I never imagined that I would be here, talking about Ripple potentially joining the ranks of banks. It's a pretty wild and kind of amazing kind of ride. All right, deep breath, because we're not done yet. Another piece of this puzzle is what big traditional finance players, TradFi as crypto likes to call it, are doing quietly. And by that, I mean they're quietly getting into Ripple and XRP's territory. Take Franklin Templeton, for example. Now, this is a huge asset management firm, right? We're talking over $1 trillion in assets under management, right? They've been exploring tokenizing some of their funds on the XRP ledger. Now, tokenization is basically putting assets like stocks or bonds on a blockchain. And if Franklin Templeton does that on the XRPL, well, it means that one of the world's largest asset managers is using XRP's tech to modernize how investments are being handled. Now, that's a massive credibility boost. It's like the cool seal of approval from the kind of buttoned up finance world. Then take a look at DBS, the largest bank in Southeast Asia, based in Singapore, and they're working with Ripple to expand the use of that RLUSD stablecoin in Asia. Now, if Southeast Asia's biggest kind of bank is piloting or even promoting something on XRP's ledger, then you know that it is not a joke. Now, that could lead to a whole region of banks using XRP's network to move dollars around. thanks to RLUSD and RippleNet. And we have BBVA, a major bank in Europe, Spain. Now they're developing custody services on Ripple's infrastructure. Now custody services meaning that they want to securely hold and manage crypto assets like XRP for their clients. So effectively, BBVA is saying, yeah, we trust Ripple's tech enough to build our own crypto custody on it. Now that's a pretty big deal. Banks don't just do that on a whim. Now, each of these developments might seem isolated, but if you put them together, you've got a US asset manager, an Asian bank, a European bank, all the giants in their regions, dipping their toes into the XRP world. Now, this signals that integration with the legacy financial system will, at least I should say, is actually well underway. Not just being shouted at or shouted from the rooftops, right? It's actually happening in a kind of quiet, methodical way. For someone like me who's been in XRP for many years, this is like seeing kind of all the puzzle pieces coming together. It's validation. It's like all of those times that people said no one will ever use XRP. Well, here we have some evidence that some of the biggest players will be using it, or at least use the tech behind it when it serves their needs. Now, let's zoom out to the really big picture here, the macroeconomic environment, right? Because this context is kind of what takes all of those catalysts and supercharges them. Right? We all know that the world economy has been a little bit shaky. The US national debt has crossed $35 trillion, and yes, that was with a T. So every few months, there's drama about rising the debt ceiling, right? And the money printer has kind of been, at least gotten pretty quiet, for at least the past few years or so. So inflation has been a bit of a worry, and generally, there's this kind of creeping concern. How long can the global financial system keep running like this before something snaps? Now, and I'm not here to kind of throw doom and gloom, but it's clear that trust is at least in the traditional system, is not an all-time high, shall we say. And when trust is at least in fiat or traditional banking kind of wavers, both people and institutions, they start looking for alternatives or insurance policies. Now, that's partly why crypto took off in the first place, right? Now, what's really interesting is even when the establishments, or at least even that the establishment is looking at and looking for these alternatives. Now, the Bank of International Settlements, which is the central bank of central banks, and the International Monetary Fund have been increasingly talking about blockchain technology for settling payments. Well, they're actually exploring digital currencies, interoperability, faster cross-border payments, and all of that good stuff. Essentially, the guardians of the old system are acknowledging that the old system needs an upgrade. Now, this is kind of where XRP could slide in as a hero, or at least one of the heroes. Now, Ripple has been kind of preaching about using XRP for cross-border settlements and liquidity for a decade now. They've built infrastructure, made partnerships, and basically positioned XRP as a bridge currency, ready to step in when the world is ready for it. And it feels like now the world is kind of itching towards being ready. Now, the crazy debt levels, the geopolitical tensions, the need for faster, cheaper payments, it's all coming to a head. So the timing for XRP's maturity, getting legal clarity, getting possible ETFs, getting big institutions on board is aligning with a moment in history where a solution like XRP might be desperately needed. Now, Phantom DeFi actually called this out. He said that this period right now is the calm before the storm. If all of these pieces come together just right, we could see something that only happens once in a century in the financial world. It sounds hyperbolic, but let's think about it. How often does a new technology get adopted by finance at the same time as a potential turning point in how money works globally? It really could be a perfect storm scenario. So, with all of that said, here we are in late September 2025. XRP is chilling around $2.80 something or something like that, relatively calm. But beneath the calm surface, All of these undercurrents are actually swirling: legal victory, ETF hopes, new stablecoin tech, banking moves, institutional adoption, macro pressures. It's like everything is quietly loading up for a big move. Phantom DeFi, the researcher who started me down this rabbit hole, believes XRP's price could crack $25 by the end of December. That's just a couple of months away. And if you've had told me a year ago that XRP would have shot up to $25, I probably would have laughed and asked what on earth you were smoking. But now, seeing all of these factors lining up, I'm not laughing anymore. I'm seriously considering that it could actually happen. Just put $25 into perspective. At around $3 now, that's almost a 10x gain in just a quarter. For me, since I got in super early at 11 cents, $25 would be more than 200 times what I had paid. 200x returns. Now that's the kind of thing that people do dream about, but almost never really actually see it. It would basically honestly be a bit of a surreal moment for me. I've done the mental math on what my portfolio would look like, and it's pretty wild. It's the kind of number that doesn't feel real. Now, I'm not saying that any of this is guaranteed or anything. Part of me is still a little bit skeptical about it from the beginning of this video, going the things with like, come on, things don't magically go 10x out of nowhere, right? And it's true. There are no guarantees, right? We could get some kind of curveball, like maybe regulators delay the ETFs, or the market tanks for unrelated reasons, or XRP only partially benefits from all of these catalysts. In fact, some rather smart people out there are cautioning that while XRP's outlook does look great, it might actually end the year at maybe $5 instead of $25. And hey, $5 is still pretty much double the current price, so it's nothing to sneeze at. It's just not as sexy maybe as $25, right? But here's how I see it, right? Whether it's $5 or $25, something big is happening with XRP. The trajectory is what matters here. All of those developments signal that XRP is not a dead coin. In fact, it's far from it. It's actually at the center of a lot of forward-thinking moves in finance right now. And that's the real takeaway here for me. It's validation that my 2020 gamble on this weird banker's coin, if you will, wasn't actually so crazy after all. So, what am I doing about all of this? Well, honestly, I'm holding. I've held for 5 years through the lawsuit hell, the crypto winters, so I can hold a little bit longer to see how this story does play out. And I've also learned to kind of keep my expectations in check. If I wake up, on New Year's Day and XRP is, I don't know, say $7, then I'm not going to cry that it wasn't 25. I'll be happy that we moved up and that the project is thriving. If it actually is $25, well, I might just have to pinch myself and maybe even throw a little party. Now, my bigger kind of reflection here is about conviction and patience. Now, I know it sounds a bit cheesy, but going through all of this with XRP has taught me an awful lot. It taught me to research and to really understand what it is that I am investing in. Because when the hard times hit, like an SEC lawsuit or a market crash, it's that kind of understanding that keeps you from panic selling. Now, I believed in the problem that XRP was trying to solve, making global money transfers easier. And that belief helped me weather the storm. Now I'm seeing the idea get validated as institutions and even central bankers start eyeing up the tech. Now, if you're new to XRP or crypto in general, then I'm not telling you to go out there and buy anything. This is just my story and my reasoning. Always make your own decisions, right? And surround yourself with good information and communities. Seriously, right? If you haven't joined yet, join the Discord server. The link is in the description down below. It's totally free, right? We've got a bunch of us in there, some OGs, some newbies. They're sharing news, they're debating, even cracking jokes to stay sane during the market's ups and the downs. So it helps so much to not be on this roller coaster completely alone. So at this point, I kind of feel like we're part of a pretty epic storyline, right? Whether XRP hits that massive number that people are whispering about or not, this journey has been one hell of a ride for the storybooks. From being called crazy for buying at 11 cents, to being called lucky as it kind of climbed, to being called crazy again during the lawsuit, and maybe soon I'll be called a genius if things really do take off, right? But in the end, I know that it's not genius move here. I'm no genius. It's just sticking to my conviction and having a fair bit of luck that the world finally caught up with the vision that I bought into. Now we're actually in the final stretch of 2025. The stage is set. I'm excited. I'm nervous. I'm hopeful. All of it. Right? And I'm really glad that I could share this personal journey and research that I found with all of you guys. Because if XRP is truly gearing up for its final big move of the year, then we're all witnessing a little piece of financial history here. And if not, hey, it's still one heck of a story. Either way, I'm going to be right here, watching it all unfold and keeping you all posted. So if you want to follow along with me, then at least as this story kind of unfolds, make sure to smash that like button for me, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you all in the next one.